Yes, mpenzi mtazamaji, tunashukuru sana. So it's really, really great to be here. To have this conversation, and I'm really, really happy that niko na Azito wako side yangu on the right corner and the east side ingine. So maybe a quick introduction about tuanze na east side, ndio? Ndio tuendelee story.
Sawa. Mimi naitwa Sam Gikandi. I'm the CEO na co-founder at Africastalking, which is a Pan-African business. Tunasaidia businesses ku engage customers through channels kama SMS, USSD, voice, vitu kama hizo.
Na mimi naitwa Danson Muchemi, I'm Chief Executive Officer and founder at Jambo. Jambo inasaidia customers, that is individuals, businesses and government, to automate how they get paid or how they collect revenues and how they also get to pay out. And generally we try to simplify lives through innovative payment solutions.
Nakumbuka there's a time nilikuwa na pay for parking. Mmoja kitambo ilikuwa ni cats and dogs na kanjo. And then of course nikauliza soja hapo akaniambia hata unaweza lipa kwa na SMS
mtandao.
No, so I just did the thing. And then of course it was just so tattoo or something, so I made the payment. So it was the most peaceful because ukifika pali lazima get parking, and then after getting parking you still have to look for the guy who's the yellow guy, amevaa yellow, muonge, and then ndio malizane ndio tena muende. Na ujui kama ni legit or receipt ama mnaongea, na ukiongea naye poa, you have to give them ka 50 bob or 100 bob.
Hongo.
It's okay. we did it so that, but you're still not sure of your car and security. So that really was inanipatia upole kidogo when I knew that I have that reference and I can do that as quick as whatever.
Jessica Colaço, tech entrepreneur and upcoming artist, releasing my NFT soon.
Yes.
At Nairobi Startup Week. Looking forward to that.
Yes. So mimi naitwa Juliani, msijifanye mjui ni nani. Una get so conversation say we really wanted us to talk about culture, and hapo chini we got a little bit deep kidogo on the source, the cause of everything else that we see in our environment. So maybe we need to just map out an environment yetu nakaaje. The chaos was there previously before we launched biashara. What was the problem at that time that you felt your solution will best fit, and equally the same. So venye nimekwambia hiyo experience yangu ya paying for kanjo. So there was 3 or 4 steps for me to pay for my parking. Now you've reduced it to 2.
Yeah.
Sindio? So what was there? Can you try to
Juliani, goja. Definition ya culture.
Hiyo ndo nataka waende sasa. So just want hiyo nini alafu you define that for me. Just map out for me the problem that existed previously, and then
yeah. So I'm a software developer. So if you're a software developer, tuseme unataka kuunda app yenye itaambia wase the weather leo na unataka kuwatumia SMS. Ukitaka kubuild hiyo app lazima saa uanze kufikiria utatuma SMS aje. Saa itabidi saa uanze kufikiria nani ako na hiyo infrastructure yenye itakusaidia kufanya hiyo kazi. Saa utaenda Safaricom, uende Airtel, uende Telcom, uanze kuongea nao, wakushow by the way you need a license from CAK, you need to have a business agreement with us, lazima ulipe ido, lazima ubuild relationship, alafu lazima uandike hii software yenye ina connect to our infrastructure. Sasa tukaona hiyo ni kazi mob. So tukaona acha tufanye hii kazi, lakini tukiconnect we make it available to every other software developer. So sasa hii ukitaka kutuma SMS, ukikuja kwa website yetu, una create account, tunakupatia ile code una need kuweka kwa app yako, and with 2 lines of code unatuma hiyo SMS. So you don't have to go through that whole process ya deal na our regulators, deal na telcos, deal na all these other things. Ni kitu inaitwa yani API. Na API ni kitu tu inasema ukiingia kwa room, leave the door open. So tukiingia kwa room ya Safaricom, we leave the door open. Tukiingia na sasa tumeingia telcos kama 40 across Africa. Kwa hivyo sasa ukianza busy yako, sasa ukitaka kwenda Rwanda, Uganda, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, South Africa, hakuna haja ya go through that process tena. Hiyo one line of code bado inakusaidia in all those places. So hiyo ndio biashara yetu. So side moja tunasaidia developers, na tuko na more than 100,000 developers wame create account kufanya hii biz. Alafu on the other hand tunasaidia telcos kudistribute products zao. Kwa hivyo telcos wanapata business. Alafu pia tunasaidia vitu kama financial inclusion. Juu some of the ideas developers wanna build zinasaidia labda kureduce barriers to getting a loan, zinasaidia maternal health care, zinasaidia farmers, zinasaidia students. All these solutions are zinakuwa possible juu unaweza engage customers using these channels.
Umepicha hapo poa.
Mine, I was raised in rural Kenya, and what my parents did, they thought nilikuwa mtoto I think mtukutu. So wakafikiria hii kijana wacha tumweke busy ndio asishikane na walevi wengine. So they got me rabbits, and so rabbits bred, and wakakuwa ni wengi na ikabidi I needed to sell to my neighbors. Unfortunately there in Nyandarua, Nyahururu, somewhere known as Silibwet, every other neighborhood boy had rabbits, and so I had a real challenge of selling these rabbits to anybody. Kwa tunapatiana kama zawadi. So after that experience, so they had 300 rabbits, could not sell. When I got to nimeenda high school, nikakutana na marafiki zangu wametoka maeneo ya Mbere. Mbere is a bit dry. Sidhani si ati Sungura.
Mbere haiko mbele.
Mbere haiko mbele. Iko mbele siku hizi lakini. So I realized tunaongea na my classmate, my desk mate, namwambia jinsi niko na sungura zinanisumbua, sijui nipeleke wapi. Na ananiambia sungura, mko na sungura, yani hata unapatia, you are feeding your dogs that sungura because you don't know how now to deal with them, and you don't want them, you have to. So I realized then that we had a whole disconnect between the people who have and those who do not, who need require certain foods, and not just rabbits. Wazazi wangu walikuwa na viazi, wanakosa mahali ya kuuza, maziwa ni nyingi huwezi uza. So I thought out of campus that I needed to create a marketplace. A marketplace, initially I thought I should connect wale ambao wanafanya ukulima na wale ambao wale wanahitaji hizo sungura. I wanted to actually start with the rabbits. So I had created a mamamboga. Tulikuwa tumeanza mamamboga.com. And in the process tukijenga hiyo platform now, after nimemalizana na kampu, I realized ile mahali ya pesa kutoka pande hii kwenda hii ingine is not easy as I thought. There was then 2008 2009 hakukuwa na jinsi you could receive or accept payment kutoka huko, especially watu wako majuu na wanataka kununua vitu hapa, ama hata Kenya. Ulipwe kwa internet, unanunua hii sungura ama viazi ikuje kwako kwa account yako ama haikuwa. And so I thought instead of having to focus on this marketplace, we realized there's a lot more work or thoughts needed to be put in, or we need to put in thoughts in creating how to enable others kama sisi to receive this payment securely. And so we focused on that. We realized there was a need to be regulated. Kulikuwa na high risk, some vitu zingine hapo you need to comply to, vitu ya security, certain specialized things, and so we focused on that. And tukaanza online. So first product ya Jambo ilikuwa online payment gateway. So we actually did put a hold that kuziana sungura na nini kwa mtandao, tuka enable wale wengine ambao walitaka kufanya hiyo biashara, to enable them, we started enabling them to transact. So we started off as just a facilitator of online payments, but quickly we realized a lot of these customers of ours also had other needs that were beyond online. Then e-commerce was also very kidogo, and they had wengine wana vans zinachukua. Remember we did some work for the people who are doing wanafanya kahawa, kusiaga kahawa, and then they would distribute across the country, and they would carry cash. So they asked us, one of our customers tulikuwa tunafanyia online, akatuambia hizi truck zetu pesa wanaibiwa, wanakajakiwa just pesa. So we ended up automating and giving them a solution now to ensure that they do not carry the money. And so we grew from there to now cities and governments, national governments, regional governments, local governments. And so for us to just now get to ile mahali sasa Kanju nama mtu
Hapo
pale
kanjo mimi kwa dhani hapo ndio sasa levels. Kumbe hapo ndio ni mnarudi tu mnaset ati
ilikuwa hiyo ni mahali tu kwa
ati
safari
wacha
yetu.
tu ai.
So hapo what we saw was bado kuna mimi actually niliklampiwa siku moja, niko hapo napiga story na Kanju, niko kwa gari ndani, alafu ananifungia clamp hapo, alafu ananiambia kwani wewe ni ticket, are you a ticket wewe juko hapo ndani hiyo gari, wewe ni ticket wewe, na akanifunga na akaniwacha hapo. It was a Saturday, and out of that now that experience I realized this guy I needed to teach him and others a lesson, others like him a lesson. And so iwe funzo. So we started, of course it was a long journey of getting to convince then the government and even beyond government, because then it was supported by World Bank. It was a transformation a program of World Bank, getting to convince them that indeed hii human interaction katikati ya wanaolipa na serikali should be eliminated through some technology that works like 1 2 3. And sasa we went through that whole process na tukawa tunafanya ile ambaye was the first city in Africa that ilikuwa na cashless, completely cashless platform. So we provided that platform.
Oh my god, deep.
Yeah, those are very deep stories, and I think clearly it seems like the upbringing, the lifestyle, which is part of the culture, influence how the two of you became entrepreneurs. And maybe let's go into what the definition of not even definitions, like what do you understand by culture, because it's all around us, it's in our companies, it's external. Danson.
Well, I think culture is really the us, sisi wenyewe, and not like mimi mwenyewe and what I have had for lunch. Tumekula hapo. Mimi mwenyewe na what I have learned and the things around me in terms of the values, the things I have been taught, my relationships with the environment, and how I relate with other people around me, and not just people, even animals and wildlife and everything else, like nature, and how we go about doing things now, whatever in context of business is how we get to go about doing our things. And for me specifically is because I have a need that I want to address in the market. There is a challenge that I want to resolve. How is it that I resolve those challenges? How is it in terms of, do I do this with passion? Could just decide, I want to do this with passion, or I want to do this with, for example, innovatively. So, well, I could move this microphone from here to there, but I could decide, okay, I want to do this with passion, or I want to do this with innovation, I want to do this nipitisha na hapa. Like, for example, for us, our culture is, we want to do everything we do innovatively. I want to do this with passion. I want to do this with integrity. I want to do this with transparency. And I also want our organization to be a very open organization in terms of whoever comes in with whatever ideas and thoughts and ways in terms of diversity, we embrace that. So culture has a lot to do with that, but the biggest is in the why.
So because maybe ndio nania ingilie, so eventually I want to fike place here in the individual, because initially we were talking about the individual and then maybe we'll talk about that, but let's tuishike juju. So uko kwa different markets, ndio? So kwa different markets inamaanisha tabia ya Mkenya na tabia ya Cote d'Ivoire ni totally different. So approach yako the way unaanza nini, you have to be so if you want to disrupt, you have to understand first, no? Sindio? So you have to understand wase wanafanyangaji vitu, sasa nao ndio sisi tutoa hii ama tuongeze hii nini. So how did you deal with that? Did you approach yako ya Kenya na how was it?
I think I'll talk about Kenya and Nigeria, because I think uko unaona the opposites. to a different extent. And I think it goes back to, because for me, culture is I think a big part of culture is how do you relate with another human being, the person who's across from you. I think that really codifies what the culture is. And I find that, for example, in Nigeria, and I don't want to speculate, but I think this goes back to them having kingdoms and very hierarchical structures. So if you go across Nigeria, you'll find there's almost like you are born into a certain lineage. So that kind of defines how you're gonna grow, how you're gonna scale. So unless you're sponsored by someone who is in a higher, has a higher status than you, then limit zako zimesetiwa from when you were born, which I find to be quite limiting, but also can be very empowering. If you're born into the right lineage, then you have the country at your disposal, because it's like being in the army where chief of staff akisema, that's it, that's what you do. Whereas I find that in Kenya there's much more decentralized relationships. So so you don't unaweza cross into another realm yenye you are not born into that realm. Like me, I was born into like I can't say. In fact, people ask me, "Are you those Gikandis?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." People assume you're those Gikandis. No, I'm not. I'm just another guy who was born in a village and and worked hard. So I find the culture in Kenya to be maybe more permissive for me, where I can actually grow. But a Nigerian could come here and be like, "This is not good." I want to be able to say, nikiongea na Juliani, nita move in certain waters. And I think for me, I've really tried hard to build a company that embodies what I believe, like embodies what I see in Kenya, actually. And that has not worked well in some of my, like in Nigeria, it hasn't worked well. I can tell you that for a fact. Because I don't believe in that, the way I relate with you, you should not have a power over me. Like, we're two human beings. So, like, you coming into this relationship and saying, I because of things that are not part of my experience, you have power over me, I generally don't subscribe to that, which means my business struggles in some markets. And does really well in Kenya, for example, where there is a very flat, very, very collaborative culture where whoever walks in can be treated equally. So those are some of the things that you have to navigate, and then it's now a question of, do you want to build a different microculture across these different markets, just so that you can make more money? And I mean nimekata.
So I mean there's a shift to it. If I listen to both, even how everybody started when you answer. So what a barrier that unaona, for example, in Nigeria, is the same barrier huyu jamaa aliona, but it became a point of information instead of a barrier. You get? So when you decided to do go on payment and gateway, it's because kuna kitu haiwaka. So ikakuwa ni information that informed you to start doing something. Ukacha nini huko, rabbits, now ukaanza kufocus na hii gateway. So does it mean in a space, in a culture, instead of us looking at it as something that will do we look at it as an of information, point of information that will inform our next move? And I feel that's how it's been to
agree. I think you're right. Culture, you go to a new market, even our own very own markets here, you got to first appreciate that there is something else beyond what we see with our eyes, that is the culture, that you may need to take time and study and understand and feel this in how people relate with each other and how people perceive a lot of other things, like who gets to say what or define and decide what happens when and how. And so I do agree with some here that we have to contend with this, and it's one of those things that we, just like language, you go to Senegal and you have to, you cannot wezi wenda kuongea Kiswahili fotu kile utaenda waambie watu wote hamjambo mjambo tena, go to think again. And so I think culture, we got to take time in our getting to grow our businesses and get to, because businesses are getting to solve other people's problems, as much as it's for them, and we need to do it sustainably so. And getting to get a business to be sustainable means you have to understand the environment, including the language and the culture. And probably some, because you'll ultimately need to be sustainable, even in that other market, we need to get to understand and see how we can angle or position our businesses to respond to various cultures and sustainably so.
Jessie?
Okay, let's go a little deeper. How do we build the trust for what you actually build as an entrepreneur, whether it's a product or a service?
I think the first point is in making sure that it does actually work, or you meeting a need that is out there. You are helping someone with your solution. That's the bottom line. Even if you everything else but do not have a solution, that would still remain another story, like another mystical story. And so I think we start from that. And then these are the aspects of how you get to do it. And the components, the ingredients that you will put into getting that product out there are really, and for me has been, I've always valued the regulatory power. Like we go to a new market and you think you should be regulated by someone, or there should be a regulator of your space. Even if it's not quite defined, you get to visit various entities and ask them for guidance on regulation. So regulation also plays a key part in building trust, but getting to get people to use your product and get to give feedback or be happy, whether they give feedback or not. That is, even if it's just one customer that is happy with your product, that is good trust that you have built in there. And if you can keep building that, there's just a matter of time and you find you're able to extend beyond that. So I think it's a lot to do with the fulfillment that you offer to customers or your users, and how you interact also with the environment, including regulators, how you interact with the environment. That means the people around you, even the environment that is beyond people.
So,
What about Sam?
I mean, when it comes to trust and hizo stories zote, like I feel like, and what some, I mean, specifically for talent, so you're identifying talent to come and support your visions, ndio. And huyu jamaa, first of all, ni biashara haijai exist, in my opinion, in the space, si ndio? So SMS, so huyu jamaa anajonga tu code, ama huyu jamaa wa marketing anajonga tu kuuza ads, ama unaona, ama huyu jamaa wa office space inafaa kuwa mtu kana ka box kake, and then sasa now wewe uko na open plans juu nini na ma bin bag up, unaona. So how do you get people to start aligning? Because of course we're talking about the market and people and whatever, but even kwa jeshi yako watu una prepare kukam kwa kuenda war now, how do you align them? Wote wako different people, women, men, baji, and then how do you get them to?
Yeah, that's a so you unaweza tumia kuna structures zenye obviously unaweza fanya command control yenye ukiingia ofisi kila mtu anashake anajua yenye mse amefika. But I think for me will lean towards there's a structure where una define purpose ya hiyo organization. Kasi hizi purpose yetu ni kusimplify life for software developers. So everything we do, kama unakam kuwork na Africastalking, unajua enyewe sisi tunapenda devs, tunapenda nuts,
tunapenda madem. Nimeona nikao unaenda huko nikashanga.
Tunapenda sana. Pia sisi wengi wetu ni devs, mimi ni dev. Okay. Kwa hivyo si hard ku identify na hiyo mission. Sasa ukikam kuwork na sisi unasema mimi nakam juu mimi napenda devs. Na tukibelieve unapenda devs, I don't need to tell you fanya hii. Utafanya juu unapenda devs. Kwa hivyo sasa ukidefine hiyo purpose vizuri yenye msi akikama anajua sasa wanapenda raha, wanapenda hii stuff. Ile kitu wanapenda, of course watafanya, they'll contribute as much as they can to help that mission. So that's how, but it's a process. Of course, tumetry your stuff without kitu ina enforce. Of course kuna watu chill, kuna watu mimi napenda devs lakini nitakaa mstafanya watu
napenda jioni.
So
madev ni madeveloper sio madem.
Umesikia madem? Okay. Pia unaweza kuwa pia na biashara yenye unapenda madem.
Si madem.
Developers. Oh my god.
Mimi nasikia
Juliani karibu akawa mafanya kazi na sisi. Anyway, so lakini ukidefine hiyo mission, alafu usahau ukuwe na kitu ina enforce hiyo structure yenye msee yenyewe anasema sanda ndakushow ile kazi nimefanya leo ndio nisaidie au madevs. Naona msee yani hata anaji self manage. Msee ka unajua Graham yenyewe ufanya dev relations ni msee yani unaona hata hakuna haja ya kumshow ati afanye stuff.
Graham huko na tools ka zote
amechangamka, unaona. So watu wamechangamkia tu ile stuff juu wanaona ile kazi nimefanya leo inasaidia hiyo mission yetu. Na kuna dev by the way alisema hii stuff mimi napenda hii platform yenu juu mlifanya hii na hii na hii.
So but I mean kabla nani aulize swali, so where umesema ni purpose, mission and stuff and vision of where but remember for us we felt like and to line up to straighten the field, I mean to flatten the field, tulikuwa tunasema education helps, education, access to internet, access to information, hizi ndio vitu tuko nadhani flatten, so that when conversations start, when people are in one room, there is an understanding despite language barrier or any other barrier that exists. But for wewe uko kwa space ya
payments
wale wabaya, no kuna government nani, so sisi tumezoea ukiwa kwa hii space inamaanisha hii sio biashara huyu jamaa, wewe una deal na wala wazee, huyu ana deal na madevs, sasa uko kwa makompa hapo tu, wewe una deal na wanaume wale sasa. So how do you do that? How do you, well, first of all the solution inamaanisha wasa watakula. The solution means we minimize corruption, we minimize vitu zote. So how do you deal with that in that environment?
I think bottom line ni kwanza kujiamini. One day niliamka nikasema nataka kuokota ushuru ya hii serikali. Then there was a certain government and it was complex kwa sababu kuna watu unajaribu kuondolea mchuzi, you are basically removing the middleman. Na sio mmoja ni wengi, so there was certainly a lot of new things that we learned. Na heat, kulikuwa na ile joto ile, ile friction inakuja hapo. So but bottom line is if you, because you provided a service that worked,
okay,
and you can then technology is interesting. You cannot argue with the technology. If it works, it works. Mtu mwingine atatumia. Ni kama Uber. Let me use that example of that brand. Najua kuna watu wa taxi walisema hapana, hii kitu kakuja katutoe biashara. App tu kakuje tu watu now today a lot of that industry is set. We have Little, we have Uber, we have Bolt, we have everyone else who is a player there. And now customer, because it works, moved to. In fact, I see a lot of now for me I see a lot of God's yani attributes za Mungu kwa IT. Ama Mungu ametuwezesha to is fulfilling. I see sometimes in kama Mungu ana fulfill what he is or part of his nature through technology. For example, being the omnipresent. Platform kama ya Sam kina Jambo pena zingine. Saizi wewe finya hiyo *805#. Utaipata hata kama uko wapi. Ama uende ufungue www.jambo.com. Hata uko US ama uko wapi. Just as if you said a prayer to God.
That's a good one.
And so that we deployed a platform that was accessible day or night. And then the moment you align that with the law, and you weke tu law is supporting this. Na vile imekuja kuwa aligned with the law is a legal process. Like you have gone through a non-legal process that is been established under that law. That hiyo ni kitu hatari. It is bound to get even those people who do not like that technology to bow to that technology, to align and toe the line. And so that's what has happened. Of course, it's not been that simple and easy. It's been, we have to work hard, you have to go through a lot of risks. and you have to face also a lot of challenges, and but you know, when you're on a mission and a vision, as my friend Sam mentioned, you are on a mission and a vision, a lot of other things that will arise along the way are just ni kama tu unaenda Nakuru, unatoka Nairobi, ukutane pale, saa ingine kutakuwa na warthog, inaweza simama ziclap, utaacha kwenda Nakuru. So you just continue with your journey. So, or you find some baboons are there asking for some maziwa hapo kidogo hapo pas Gilgil, you will just have to tawapatia labda saa ingine maziwa kidogo, ama you just decide I'm not, and you proceed. And so that's how but generally for me, government is the best way you can be impactful to a large population. And so there was a time out of frustrations I had decided nataka kuachana na hii maneno ya public sector kabisa. Tulikuwa tumesema hiyo sector kabisa upotelea mbali, kwa sababu mara umeitwa hii, mara umeitwa wapi, mara imesemekana nini. But we realized if our mission is to simplify lives through innovative solutions, if we say that we are not going to serve that customer because of how they have come, ama vile wamekuja dressed in government, for example, overall imeandikwa serikali, then that means your vision, that would have meant our vision is selective. And so we decided, yes, we are focusing now on private sector. We have a lot of over 4,000 customers who are private sector. Na wale ambao ni serikali ambao ni kama 20, we have about 27 government entities only, but we have to still serve them. Yeah.
Danson, napenda kupromote Jambo. Sawa. Sam, and Danson, as entrepreneurs, building culture in your company and externally is not easy, right? So I'd like to talk about a bit of the governance. Governance is very important in instilling the overall culture. So how have you brought governance?
Unaona, kwanza uvenyemuliza hivyo tu, yani uvenyemuliza. Actually, so earlier we were having a conversation. I'm really glad that you brought that, because I wanted to segue to that. So before he talks about that, so see, before you talk about governance and within the organization and within it's about self, you know. So I
individual.
Want, so I like let's delve in that, and then that's how itakuwa easier.
Alafu tuende governance.
Because actually I wanted to go that nini. So both of you guys, and you don't need to go to the details. Yes. But there was a moment of the day you raise your first money. Ujama, the first time tulipatana kwa mashimo huko, I asked him. I'll ask him. Inaitwaje ile nini yake? Dashboard yake hivi. Kama he used to 140 million Kenya shillings every day. You see it every day na reflect hivi. 150 million shillings. Hizo mazero zinatosha kwa hiyo screen kwanza. Unaona? There is that until the day something happened significant to him, that he looked at how life is. Yeah. And the same for you, when you decided this is the place, now I need to look at when COVID happened. I need to look at how I look at myself, and eventually now we look at how I engage with the world. So maybe we start there and do from there.
Yeah. Hey, that could be a whole 6-hour conversation. I think for me, and this is my experience, and I'm not gonna impose it on anyone, because I genuinely feel like niliunda hii kampuni out of fear. Out of fear of you know, I never felt safe from when I was born on this continent. Na nile unazaliwa into circumstances zenye yani sio fiti. Unajua uko village, alafu pia village uko kuna mavitu zina happen zenye sio fiti. Nawe ni mtoi. So ina instill in your mind enyewe hii continent si best. Sasa mimi nikaona kusurvive lazima nisome. Nikasoma, nikashika vitabu, nikasoma. KCSE nikakuwa number 3. Na hiyo mwaka wali rank 2 3, nikakuwa number 3. Nikaona nimeomoka, nikaitwa sijui MIT, nikachomoka. Sasa sikuwa ifikiria hiyo experience nili have my first especially 5 6 7 years, my first 10 years zilikuwa rough. Alafu nika survive. By the time nilikuwa nafika sijui 2021, mimi niko Boston, niko fiti, nikapata job. Alafu na nilikuwa nasema sitairudi hii place. Juu hii place to me ilikuwa death by 1,000 cuts. Hakuna vile nilikuwa na kama. Alafu sasa nika lose job nikajipata manze niko base. Sasa umerudi ile place ulikuwa umesema utairudi. Si lazima sasa usurvive. So me I build that company to survive out of fear. So for the last from 2012 mpaka last year ilikuwa tu yani adrenaline. Ilikuwa tu zile za unaamka every day unaanza uko na paranoia, what could take this thing down, because if this thing is taken down that's me, nimeenda.
Yeah.
Yani unaishi your life. Ukisikia nilikuwa niko 20 countries, ni hiyo paranoia. Unaona yenyewe Kenya ikifail Cote d'Ivoire ita happen. Si unaona? Yani unaunda kitu yani wasa wanasema hii kitu ni best, lakini wewe mwenyewe uko fiti. Haujai confront zile stuff zili happen. Sasa una make decisions, lakini si wewe una make decisions. Unajua like you're not present. Ni ile kitu imekusave for the last this year naingia 40. For the last 40 years ile kitu imekusave ndio inasema hii do enda uchukue. Fanya hivi. So mpaka yani ufike hiyo point na hiyo experience ya life ndio inakushow, by the way, bila unafikiria hii dunia uanga haikwangi hivyo. Hakuna ati ile tension una assume. It's not only the paranoid who survive. Naona. So until you get to that point, then life starts. So my life started last year. Vile niliona enyewe.
Last year?
Yeah,
Kumiaka ngapi?
that's when I arrived. Sasa hiyo ndio. In fact hata last year, hata this year ni kazi yani ina take time. Ku deconstruct, ku reconstruct yani. Kutoa hizo mavitu zenye yani zinakupatia tension. Unajua ile ati una feel squeeze sifikini, I don't feel any tension. I never feel ati stressed, I never feel anxiety. Unajua ile anxiety unafikiria ati that's normal. COVID ilifika nilikuwa na anxiety nashindwa niko na COVID ama ni nini. Mpaka nikaona manze nikibaki kwa hii and breath imeenda. Juu ile anxiety imekushika. Hata uwezi elewa inatoka wapi. So kufanya hiyo kazi yani kudeconstruct hiyo stuff na imetake a year na ni kazi yani inaendelea for a lifetime, lakini suddenly unaanza kuona enyewe the world is not like this. So and then that now starts to so it goes back to the whole conversation of culture and relationships and bituka hizo zenye niko hapa sina tension ati niko hapa kwa nini nasema hii stuff. Mi niko fiti naongea tu. Niko fiti na nitatoka hapa na nitakuwa nimefurahi. And that's it.
So when you relate to yourself with your surrounding, with your people you're working with, ni totally different because
completely.
So now see slave driver to get numbers, to get nini. It's based on
jua sasa eti watakushow. Mse alikuwa na good days na bad days. Na wasa usema, Sam is in the office today, he's in a bad mood. And when Sam is in a bad mood, ni mse mean, ni mse opposite ya yule mse wanajua. When Sam is in a good mood, generous, ana have fun, nini, ana dance, ako fiti. Lakini akishikwa na ka mood, anaingia manze. Sasa hiyo hata umeingia depression, hata ujui umeingia depression. Lakini wasi clearly wanaona this is a different personality. So until you reconcile those two, unaweza ishi life moja and you could live to your 70s and you never have to confront this because you're successful, you have money, you're good. So you feel like it's not important. In fact, I taught people who say I know I have issues but I'll just park it because I'm bado na niko na ndai, niko fiti. Lakini you don't realize that's the most important thing unafaa ku confront. And then you need a forcing function yenye inakushow, yenyewe bro, relax. Na ukirelax unaona hey, I've just started living.
hiyo siku
mimi yangu nilikuwa na ajali 2020 February 9th. Bad, terrible, unfortunate accident that got me or left me hospitalized, admitted at a hospital for a whole month. That was the moment of, I think, hapo ndio nilikuja kurealize I had totally taken a very different tangent. That's when I got to reconcile with myself, start the process of reconciling with myself, because it's also a process, understanding a lot of things that I thought were not, and a lot of things I thought were important actually are not, and what mattered. then and now are totally different. I actually do feel that moment where I was going through that painful and sort of lonely process was a moment of I learned most. In fact, is bigger than a master's program because I learned the biggest lessons of my life. I've been actually a lot at peace with myself. I know how to. Now I got back to my real elements. I'm also happier. I know what is important. What is what
Danson,
not.
can you share a little more?
Yeah, I know now. For instance, family is very important, and the things that really were pushing, because it's true when you're on this thing, this entrepreneur, not just entrepreneurship, even you could be in your gig. You are on
Mimi
it.
entrepreneur. Leo we have established me
He's
si
an
artist.
entrepreneur, true.
Mimi entrepreneur.
Kabisa.
You find you keep going, and you run and rush until you cannot stop. And what you are chasing sometimes is not what people imagine here. Pesa, I remember initially, hata mimi nilianza out of, I also wanted security. I lost my father in high school. Nilikuwa nahofia kose chakula. Na I would see opportunities. And so I was trying to run away from that, maybe just simple hunger, and also building something. But you keep going and money comes in, you see you have made 1 million, 2, 10, 20, 100, like that, and suddenly you are not, nothing is the same, and you cannot, it's not even, you're not happy, you're not, it is not enough. Kuna kitu tu inakusumbua vitu mingi sana, and that's a recollection of a lot of things that have
Pile up.
vitu za hata za kukaa tu una hofu kwa sababu you lost your parent and you or other things. There are a lot of things that could be in your closet. And also, so for me it was just was getting to lie at a hospital, in a hospital bed, and that's when I got back to my senses, I must say, and yeah, that was it. And so now I know, and a lot of us have gone through a lot of this. It's not always. In fact, you have very little fun while you are making money, and when you are going through that, there is a whole motion and cycles that you keep going round
through.
and round, and sometimes you are unhappy. It means you are as fragile and volatile as it can get. That's out of experiences. That is a business that if you keep doing, because sometimes you know you do it and you trust, you think you, governance basically means you have a whole set of controls. For example, for me, having a board that I report to, regardless of if the shareholder, major shareholder or owner, you have somewhere else that you report and submit to. For me, and that now translate, getting to have a clear separation of, for example, we have a board, we have the shareholders, you have the staff, and we have customers, and all those things, just putting them in right perspective and making sure how the relationship is flowing between all these is quite well, not just thought through, but purpose. It does not keep shifting.
Because, so, the reason why for me the conversation around the culture, before we talk about building business or building governments or building societies and whatever, initially when niko na juzi to like 2017, I realized that, so you have the nation, you have society, you have nini, you have family, you have friends, and then you have you. Unaona? So all along, throughout, things have been flowing from that level, affecting you. So whatever happened to you, even how you started your business, is a reaction to what happened to you. Sindio? But, which is okay, because you're in the path of growth. And then now you've decided you're the one now pushing now. So your solution now finds a new purpose. It becomes a tool that has a new purpose. So initially was a sword ya kutry kuwepa wase, ama ilikuwa ni shield, but now ni maybe ni okay, panga pia ni noma but ni kitu tu yani it's a useful tool that now you get to affect or extend yourself into the world, sindio? So that's how for me it's I really wanted to for that to come out, especially for people starting to build businesses, build ideas, and whatever. That is, it come from Evie instead of a reaction to the world. So inamaanisha how we our entrepreneurs wa wapya, wasa wapya, wase government, whatever decision they are making, wase msai kupatia mita mbili. All these people need to understand that it feeds in, it's inaingiza pahali na lazima ikaminje eventually. So inamaanisha ita influence how the market reacts to a product, how they consume a product, how you even build a business, how all these things. So I really wanted that to come out without even going to the details of culture. So I wanted to ask Sam, so if so sahi umefika hapa sahi, so what do you think in since sahi uko na hiyo inside realization, what do you think outside needs to shift to encourage wase wa move differently and how they
I think the best that I can do, and this is what I'm doing right now, is just share my experience honestly. Unajua sana naweza kuja hapa niseme sijui nini, sijui nilifanya nikasoma, ni kutell ile the real story. Ile real story ya by the way, mi ni yule mse aligo through this, nili struggle, nikafanya hivi, life yangu imekuwa hivi na nimefika hii point hivi. And that's it. And just share my experience honestly with no expectations. Mtu akisikiza asikize, juu ukitry pia naweza kuambia historia alafu kesho useme bado mse yako na ujinga ana try nitasema tu hii ni experience yangu, na kuna watu wataconnect, watasema yenyewe hata mimi kuna vile pia mimi niliperform vizuri KCSE, lakini kuna vile nilijistress alafu nikaenda works nikajistress, I was fired, nikaanza kampuni, the investors took it away nini na nimefika point nashindwa what's the meaning of this life. Nikishare hiyo experience msi anaweza ona maybe there is something, alafu sa niseme how have I unwound a lot of that, because that is trauma, you know. It's kuna everyone from the moment you're dropped, trauma inaanza that moment. Unasikia baridi, unaanza kulia, unaambiwa acha kulia nini. So how do you unwind that ndio enyewe ufike point unaona I'm living my most authentic self, because I think human beings tunataka tu transparency. Mimi nataka kujua nikiongea na wewe si ati na get version fulani yenye unafikiria mimi nataka tu usikie enyewe nimeongea na Sam na vile amesema ndio iko. Si ati amenipima ama nini. Ukisha life inakuwa simple. Na if everyone did that work yenye unafika your authentic self, hii country by the way tutalipfrog yani speedy sana. Itakuwa kitu rahisi. Si ati kuget ma technologies na kubuild. Ni kujibuild si wenyewe na kushare hiyo experience. Yenye unajua ukiongea na msee manzee msee anakuambia ukweli. Anakuambia ukweli yake yote. Na si ukweli yenye iko influenced na ati alichapwa ati nini. Ni ukweli yake yenye amesema nilichapwa lakini I didn't deserve kuchapwa. Sasa nikikwambia hii stuff, that's where I am. So na ni kazi ngumu, and that's why I think the fourth industrial revolution is about mental health. Human beings tutaishi life moja fiti sana.
True. I agree. Absolutely. We are fabric. Everyone has a purpose. Design the society is such that si venye uko msanii ana entertain watu kabisa. Nikajaribu kufanya hiyo, nitajiangusha ama niangusha watu. And so we got to play and do what you don't try copying other people or living another life. Just search from your kutoka mbali kabisa what you love doing, and not just love doing, what you are well positioned to do or angled out of mahali ulitoka, your experiences and everything, and just give it out. Speak it out. Sometimes you may be in the kitchen, cook it out. You could be in studio, just what do you call it?
Wrap it out.
Wrap it out.
Oh my
You
God,
are in
Danson,
your-
you're taking it home.
Yes,
Go.
you got you're a developer, code it out. You are an entrepreneur, bring it out. And so if we did that, all of us, you find we are going to have so much fun, find so much fulfillment, and sort out all our problems. Because the reason we are all around, even a forest, you find kuna ile insect ndogo kabisa iko pale, it's enjoying out of a shade that is from some trees that are there, and some others that, so it's supposed to be like that. We should not try to be a hardwood where you are a softwood, and we should not also look down upon an insect in that forest that is providing some very important hizo bacteria ziko hapo zinafanya decomposition yenye inafanya manure, alafu so everyone is equally important in whatever form and format and shade that they present themselves. And so the most important bit is just live your life and bring out your best, regardless. Somehow, how things are now, we have good platforms from people who also brought out the best in themselves that you're able to showcase. Not just showcase, you can now get to provide your rap to someone in Japan. And so we got to get you to do it at your best. And that way someone from the other part of the world will get to appreciate you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Juliani, we take it home now?
Yeah, we take it home. So, I mean, for me, I think later we can have a discussion later, deeper kidogo na hii story. But when it comes to, every time we were talking about market, entrepreneurs, sijui products, nini, we always looking at what is in our way and how can we get rid of it. And I remember earlier we were saying, is it a trauma response that wewe as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for normas ya kuingililia ndio fight, you're always looking for a fight, unaona? So but basically what you're saying, from now on you're not creating a solution out of looking for a fight, because you end up utaumia, si ndio? But you're now creating a solution based on passion, based on purpose,
Based on love.
Based on umeirusha hapo. Warasta ni typical rasta, lazima kamini nayo yangu.
Love is the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So because I feel like every time even when we were having discussion about the entrepreneur space right now my entrepreneurs tuko naongea na, I'll say these stories over and over. Niko naambia say when we were trying to build this Nairobi Startup Week, one of the questions I was asked, okay, what are you going to give the entrepreneurs who are going to showcase? So, and I was like, okay, they can have investors. If you have to think I have conversation with investors, we can have of how to code. We can have that discussion. But the truth is, you can easily find that even on YouTube.
We shall give love.
Ukisha give love, iko tu sawa, unaona? So I was like, how do we start telling stories? We share, because automatically I remember when I was starting, the only thing that got me to even start music, because I was in a community. Nilikuwa hapo na wasauko fulani maumao. Unaona, and that community, I wasn't paid. I didn't know about going to market or recording. So mimi there was just a vibe and a place for me to belong.
Walikupenda.
And then automatically nilipendwa, my passion grew even more from there. So I think that's the conversation part that we were not having for in the ecosystem.
Absolutely.
From that software point of view, not the real software coding, but software, the inside software. So I think we should tell more of these stories.
And I think more of our stories, Juliani, coming from us here, based in this ecosystem. We need to tell our stories.
But we always tell our stories from how we succeeded.
Yeah, but we need to tell our stories of how we started and how we failed.
Who we are.
And who we are, where we've come from.
Correct.
It needs to come from us.
Yeah.
A local narrative.
So what do we want from here? From Toka wacha tuimalize. So what do we want based on how we see things right now, politically, socially, economically in this country? What do we want for the next 5? I mean, against our business or just as a person? Of course, nani anataka more love. But what do we want in the next, as we close it, what do we want? What don't we like in the space right now when it comes to Kenyans, when it comes to the ecosystem, when it comes to what inini to like sai sana, that if we think if we sort it out in the next 10 or 20 or even 100 years of whatever, it'll change.
I think for me, just more safe spaces where people can speak openly, where we can have these kinds of conversations. Actually, I think this is the last few weeks are the first times I have actually felt safe to speak honestly and openly about my experience. Juu saa ingine una feel hii space utajajiwa nini. Like recently, Jessica and I were at this, there was a conference called Hive, and these guys, I shared my experience, and you know what? Walikuja watu wakanipatia hug. Imagine, like more spaces like that, yenye una feel enyewe, I don't have to show up ati nikwe fast body nini. Show up ka yule mse, by the way, hata unaweza lia stage. Na wasee hawatasema mse ni aje, hakuna ubabi nini. Wanaona enyewe mse, we love him. That's it. Tuki create hizo ma space, we'll change things faster than anything else.
I think that let's create space and also encourage and get to be ourselves, give our whatever we are made of, whatever we are, and not necessarily being boxed into certain set ways of or standards of measuring success and so forth. I think getting people to be appreciated for whatever they do and what trade they decide to, and just probably work out a new measure of excellence that is not necessarily monetary or not necessarily what we have here that is can really get someone working towards some edge that is really risky. So that measure, probably we need to look at tukifanya mahesabu pale palikuwa na numerics, tukaenda kulikuwa na algebra na trigonometry. Probably we need to also relook other things like the trigonometry and stop just looking at the numerics, because saizi mahesabu numbers is what is the definition of success and not success. And so there are other areas that you'd want to work out and you find you want to excel and you would not probably be counted as a successful person. So let's be allowed and given space to be ourselves and be measured for the passion, the energy and the effort that we put in the trade that we are in or our area of interest. Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm actually motivated by talk that Steve Jobs gave in 2005 at Stanford. And one thing that stood out was love what you do. Really, that makes you authentic as a person. And I think that's for an individual basis. But for the ecosystem, I think we really need more collaboration as entrepreneurs, as government, as academia, as investors. We need to be talking to each other and also telling our own narrative as people who live in this country and this city. We need to tell our story.
I think to finalize this, so for me, when I look at the history of Kenya, Tuyani, and I look at from the 40s and the 50s, and then the sijui KANU, and then KADU, and then we got our independence, and then after independence, you had a generation of machopi, ndio walikuwa na run government, unaona, and then machopi wakaisha, and then wabeberu wakaenda, and then we started developing. All through the history, we've been running away from something.